the late 1980s, the city of El Paso was looking for ideas to make the downtown a vibrant new place again. I came up with the idea of taking the history of El Paso and portraying it in dramatic sculpture. And I thought, what a great thing to excavate all that history out of the soil, out of the dust of El Paso, and turn it into bronze and create these great figures, and we could have it like a sculpture walk through history. And I presented the idea to the city council, and everybody I talked with seemed to think it was a wonderful idea too.
First thing that came to our minds was tourism and economy, because we're the 10th poorest city in America. So we need all the help we can get when it comes to tourist attractions and raising the economy and the level of living and so on.
They were going to choose 12 historical figures that represent us, this community. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them were basically, dead white men. It's Europeans, Spaniards, or Anglos that came here and defined what our history would be.
Although I had the concept of the 12 Travelers Memorial of the Southwest, the actual selection was under the control of the city of El Paso. The first figure that was selected by the city was Fray Garcia, who built the first mission at the Pass of the North. And it was the largest standing figure in Texas at the time in bronze. The second figure was selected to be Don Juan de Oñate, who named the city El Paso. He brought the Hispanic culture, the language, the religion, everything that has sort of given the Southwest the peculiar character that it has today.
We were thrilled to see that El Paso was trying to bring Hispanic history to light with the statue of Oñate. We've been watching that over the years, waiting to see when it's going to be finished so that we can hopefully go down and help them celebrate.
It will finally be an unveiling of our history.
There was a lot of discrimination to our Hispanic people in the way history was taught. Why has our history been so buried? What you keep hearing is, oh, gee, these people are coming over the border now. We weren't newcomers. We have a legacy, I think, to be extremely proud of. But unfortunately, our people don't know their own history. This equestrian statue of Oñate would be the opening for most of our kids to be able to look at the history and say, hey, we're involved in that too. Our ancestors did do something. Look what they brought. Look at all the things that they brought.
Hauser wanted everything to remain at that kind of Disney-fied, McDonaldized level without really seeing the guts and the gore of history. And he just persuaded some of the rich people in our city to fund this multi-million-dollar project.
Wherever we have to do anything that's historical, we try to be as accurate about it as we can. This stripes on either side, that was very common for that period. Oh, that's going to be great. Yeah. The first thing is to start studying the history and to get a feel for what happened during that period and who you're dealing with.
I think the journey north was heroic, but they had not come to till the soil themselves. They relied for shelter, for food, and virtually everything else on the people who were already there.
When they reached San Juan Pueblo, Oñate had the Indians kicked out of their homes, and the Spaniards were requisitioning food from all of the surrounding pueblos, and so the Indians were very, very disgruntled. An altercation broke out, and the Acoma killed some of the Spaniards.
Oñate proclaimed a just war by fire and blood to fight your enemy and either prevail or lose your life in the attempt.
They pulled a small cannon up the back of Acoma Mesa. Then they fired into the village. People were hacked to pieces in the street.
They came as killing machines. They brought dogs of war. They fed them human flesh so that they attacked, eating people alive. I can't think of anything more terrifying. They're twice as big as the normal Pueblo Indian would have been then. 250 pounds.
I can only imagine the terror and the fear as these men went up and down the village, killing Acoma women and children and elders.
The Battle of Acoma was a near genocide of Acoma Pueblo. The population of Acoma being 2,000 with only 250 survivors. The streets were piled with bodies and running red with blood.
Where Acoma is situated, the mesa itself and the surrounding valley is holy ground. That place has power. It has spiritual power, and I believe has given the people power. I can't imagine, I really can't imagine what took place or how the people dealt with something as traumatic as a Holocaust, losing that much of your people. I remember when I first saw those images of the statue down in El Paso, it was such a feeling of anger and disgust. I thought a lot of people either don't know their own history, or the scary part is they really do want to honor somebody who was a perpetrator of genocide and violence, who slaughtered the people. That's the scary part. And so I thought to myself, we have to do something about the statue.
Good evening. This is Artur Santa Fe on Talk Radio Central. Tonight I have with me Myris Chino, talking about his own work and about larger issues in art right now. I was reading a quote from Mark Simmons, who most people know for the histories he's written here, in regards to the statue of Oñate, and he said something to the effect that it's time to let it go. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the native people. Mm-hmm. And how would you respond to that?
When these things continue to get funded through the racially biased councils of El Paso, how can we move on? If the Nazis were the only ones that recorded the history, I'm sure that we would have a different view of history now. Violence is violence. Genocide is genocide. There has to be a recognition about what really happened in this area.
How do we deal with the crimes of the past when we're trying to recognize our history? Sure, Oñate had his faults, and maybe he did commit this atrocity at Acoma. But he represented the morality of a different period. So it's not for me to defend him or to accuse him. I want these statues to be like fingers that are pointing into a certain era in the history of the Southwest and saying, here it is, look at this and think about it, good and bad, the whole thing. The history.